Hi, Dan.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. I just got these new slipper socks.
Wow, which we probably can't see in the camera.
No,
so.
I mean, they're like inside. It's like walking on a fucking cloud, okay? I don't know how else to explain this to you.
Okay.
But I turned 33 on Friday, and this is how I'm entering my 34th year on this planet.
Fair play.
Walking on a cloud.
Walking on a cloud. I have socks which I feel would keep me safe at night.
Oh, okay. We're going for very different things here. It's kind of matching your hat.
Yeah,
Ish.
kind of, maybe, sort of.
Not at all.
No,
in
actually,
any way,
it's very different.
Very different.
Total different shade of.
I'm also walking on Cloud 9 specifically because What's It Like to Love Me came out on Friday. How do we feel about it?
Feel good. I mean, it's your song. I feel great in terms of like having something which I like listening to so much out into the world. Like, I'm not getting sick of hearing that song on, like, we use it for Instagram and Twitter and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time I use a clip of it, I'm like, still like it. Still good.
Yeah, which is wild, really, because normally when you release music, like, what, a year or so after writing it, you hate it.
Yeah.
Fun fact about this song is we recorded this pretty much in one take, I think. Like, you weren't even at the studio this day. Like, we were just kind of doing some pre-production.
Yeah.
And Pete, our producer, was just kind of like, just get it through, let's get it down so we can work out where things are, how the stuff sounds, how your vocal sounds with the guitar, all that kind of jazz.
Little did you know you were being coerced into doing a final take of the song in pre-pro.
I mean, I think deep down I did know that somewhere.
Yeah.
But
I don't know though, because I feel like that's what makes it so special. That version of it is you just like playing it so nonchalant, so not caring about playing it so carefully, you know. That's what makes it such a perfect version of it.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I think you're right, because in the back of my head I was kind of like almost a bit I was ready to like fight. I was like, this isn't going to be the final version, like I'm gonna make sure of it. So like I didn't really put any effort into singing it because I was just like, oh, we're just kind of getting it down. And I think because of that, it actually has like a much more like, it is just like me playing it at home rather than like, I'm going to try and hit all the notes perfect. Like it wasn't like that and how I was singing it. And
that would have spoiled the song, I think, because I think, again, like coming back to when I first heard it, you just played it super chill, like picked the acoustic up, like, hey, I've got this song, I'm going to play it for you. And you didn't play it with like loads of, like, you weren't playing it like it was a gig.
Yeah.
You were just like kind of not mumbling through it, but it was certainly pretty low key. And that's the version I was like, well, that's just the song. Like there needs nothing else to it. It's just you in a small room playing that song.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because to my knowledge, you played it in the kitchen of the studio.
Yes.
So there's like an amazing, huge live room, which is like legendary, and loads of cool spaces in the studio. But the kitchen had some sort of magic to it.
Do you know what? Actually, what it was he was like, would you rather do it in the big live room, which can be quite intimidating, especially as it was, like I said, pre-production. And whenever Dan's not there, I'm always a bit on edge anyway, because I'm like, it's a band. I want to do things with you. I don't want to do it on my own. So I was already like just a bit on edge. So he was like, would you rather do it in the live room or the kitchen? And I was like, the kitchen, please. Like, it's smaller.
Because in your mind, that's probably you being like, there's no way they'll keep it. There's no way.
Exactly. There was just so many things going through my head. I was like, it's fine. Like, please do it in the kitchen, because then the door could be shut. No one could be watching me. It was just much less like intimidating.
Yeah.
And because we were trying the tracked vocals thing, that was the first song we were like trying on. So Pete was like, well, you may as well sing it again through twice, and let's just mash them all together and see how it sounds. And then before we knew it, we were like, I think because I knew the song so well, obviously, and I'd sang it so many times before, when just singing it twice again over the top, there were no bits where it was like the timing was off or anything, because I don't know, it's so firmly wedged in my brain that it did just sound like one cohesive take, but with three vocals. So just, we sat on it for so long. And I think, you know, even way through recording more music, I still thought like, oh, I'm sure we'll do it again one day. Like, we won't keep it. But actually over time, like, it grew on me. Like, I kind of like the imperfections of it, and some guitar strums are really too loud, and so, you know, like, I kind of like that. And so over time, I kind of started agreeing with you guys and was like, I don't actually think it needs to be touched. And we did debate like harmonies and stuff, didn't we?
Yeah.
If it even just like slight production bits just to kind of lift choruses, but we just wanted to leave it alone, didn't we, really?
Yeah, especially me. I was like, the version that you recorded, because it was recorded onto analog tape, so that it just kind of like existed as that version. It wasn't put in the computer, it wasn't EQ'd in that way. It was just all through like outboard gear into a tape machine on tape. And then I think that version was really raw, like so raw. And then I think with the rest of the songs we were recording at that point, we had to put it in the computer and kind of like just spice it a little bit. But when I say spice it, it was like just EQing it like the other songs. But there was a version that I was so in love with that was just like the graveliest, grittiest, tapey kind of sounding version, and I was like, it took me a long time to let go of that, but it would have just been an odd one out, but yeah, it was a good example of like why we chose to use that method, I guess, or why Pete sort of helped us choose that method to record, because tape's all about letting go of perfection and like playing things in and it being like just printed and that's done. It's like that's the version.
And it really amplified my fears though, because I listen to pop music and I like everything when it's like neat and tidy and you don't hear breaths and you don't hear guitar scuffs, like. And so I knew going into this process I was going to have to let go of a lot of stuff anyway, but especially with this version, I always think, oh, you know, I'm okay, but like once we go into a recording environment and it's spruced up a bit and things are tidied up, it's going to sound much better. But with this, it was very much like, oh no, we're really not going to do anything here, like this is going to be it. And I was like, yeah, but it just sounds like it's me singing in my root. Like it was very vulnerable. There was like everything was stripped away, and I was like, but there's nothing, like you're not tuning it, you're not doing anything to it. And that even now is terrifying for me, because I just think normally a recording process for me is kind of like it hides all the little sins, or what is that like phrase, I don't know. And this was just like bearing all, and and I think it goes hand in hand really with what the song is about, doesn't it? It's very much like I did do a little Instagram post kind of explaining why it was written, but for anyone that didn't see it or cares in any way, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you must care a bit.
It's nice to hear again, like
so if you haven't heard of attachment styles, there are like 4 main ones, and I think it's like anxious, avoidant, secure, and then there's kind of like one other one which I can't really remember, or maybe there are only 3, I don't know. But I have definitely leaned towards the anxious style of attachment, and it's been very prevalent in all of my past relationships. But it's because of that, and because of how painful they've been, because an anxious attachment goes for what they know, which for me is an avoidance. So you're constantly trying to go for someone who is avoiding you and trying to get away from it. So it's nothing but pain, and it's a recipe for disaster, which is why it's so incredibly painful. But it's because of that pain, it forced me to just really learn about myself, or at least try to, because I was almost wanting the problem to be me, because then I could fix it, you know. And so there was just a lot of self work, and this song was very much born out of that, just the pain of being in a relationship that you know is not healthy, and yet you're in survival mode. The only thing that you care about is keeping it going, because to you that kind of attachment leaving means abandonment, and it means your whole life being over, basically. That's how it feels. And so it comes out of a very painful experience. But I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that, and it's mostly the anxious attachment style people that will know that they are that kind of attachment, because they're the ones that feel it the most, really. Sadly enough. So yeah, it's kind of what it's about, and I really love it. It's got like a big place in my heart, and it's probably one of the most like rawest songs that I've written. And I've written lots, of course, like about mum and stuff, but this is definitely like stripping every bit of my skin away, because honestly, if I'm going to be really honest, I find it embarrassing, like to be that way in relationships and to feel insecure and needy. I don't want to be that. I want to be secure and happy, and my head knows this stuff, but everything in me, this programmed part of me, is very insecure, and I don't like that. So it's embarrassing and I find it shameful, but that's why this probably means more to me, because it's the rawest part of me, and I'm just putting it out there like, yep.
Essentially, it is kind of like a biography. Like this one, we've always, in our songs, I guess, found a poetic way to say what we're saying. And this one's like much less poetry and much more like
It's
journaling.
literal. Yeah.
So like it feels like you're reading an excerpt from something that's from you. I think that's, again, why it made sense for it to be exactly left as it was. Because the more you put things over it, the more you're just covering it up with stuff, putting dirt over the top of it, and trying to make it something else. And I think for the message to come across, it's almost like if you can go as low as you can, as less as you can get with it. So like the guitar had to be there because it needs melody and chord, but nothing else. If there was drums or strings or harmonies or like, all that kind of stuff. But what I do love is that it has the triple track vocals, which was a whole new experimental style for like seeing how your voice sounded. And I think that has this amazing effect because you're really good at nailing like takes in a row. And I think having that, like the way it kind of strays when you're singing, like the kind of triple track of it is just so like interesting, because it could easily be this very, very, very raw song that's just like feels like you record it on a phone and put it out or something. But having that slight production element just gives it some kind of like lift. It's hard to describe, but it's like it made that song what it is, I think. Like having that triple track on it.
Yeah. So. How does it feel to have a song though that's a Meadowlark song, but you didn't do anything to? Like, is it kind of a hard thing for you, or
like for me, like Meadowlark's always been it's our project, but it's you. It's like, my job is facilitating your voice and facilitating your songwriting, and like when I can add to it or like or bring things to you that you get excited about, that's cool. But equally sometimes like my role is just as a facilitator is just to step back, whether that's in a song where I'm doing almost nothing or in this song doing absolutely nothing. Like it's a choice we made, and it's like the ego in you or in any musician would be like, I could put something on it. You could easily riff over that or put stuff, but does the song need it? And like always serve the song. And sometimes that just means like just watching it like from afar. And I'm quite happy about that. Like I think Meadowlark for me is there's such an ebb and flow to Meadowlark. Like there's sometimes we're doing everything and we've got drummers and bassists and it's this huge collaborative effort. And then sometimes it's back to what it should be, which is your voice and a bed of like honest music. And I think that's kind of like, this song's a great example of how we can play with those parameters.
Yeah.
And like there'll be other songs we put out, I'm sure, that have like everything all at once. And it's like, and there's some songs that will be like this where we can just go, actually, like it's just a guitar and a voice.
And I really, really so appreciate that about you, because a lot of my stuff, there's a lot of like non-confidence around it, and it's still very like me just playing, whereas when I bring it to you and you like accept it in that way, you breathe much more life into it just by loving it and giving me confidence. It's just it's a really lovely way to do music, to feel that accepted, and I could bring anything to you and know that you'd be honest about it, but also really loving and accepting. Well,
that's the thing, like we've talked about this before, there's this odd thing where now you're releasing music under your own name again. What makes it a Meadowlark song? And it is like, it's intangible. We don't know what it is, but something when you played that song felt like it belonged in this project. And yet listening to it, usually I'd be like, have an idea, but there was just no idea for it. It was like, that is just it.
Yeah. So
it was a really weird moment of like, it definitely needs to be a Meadowlark song because it fits this whole, all the songs you've been, writing recently, it fits in that ilk, it's really, and it really centers it. I feel like this song actually centers all the songs we've written in the last year and a half, 2 years or whatever.
Just kind of questioning that very kind of human nature of like, what is this? Where are we? Why do I feel like this? That's kind of the thing that holds a lot of these songs together.
Massively. And it represents a part of your life that when I knew you was a really tough time for you. Like that era, you lost a lot in that year, 2018, I guess it was, 2019. And like, I feel like, the song must be painful for you, and also vulnerable. But then for me, it's like, it's a really savage postcard.
Yeah.
It's like looking back and being like, fuck, that was a bad time for you. And like, a lot of people around you like really struggled to see you go through that.
Yeah.
And so to have something that's like written in all that's entirety, really how you felt, is quite powerful, really.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how it can be perceived by other people, but for those closest to you, I think all of us, my other half, Claire, like cried listening to it. It's brought me close to tears every time because it is just so, there's no dressing up. It is just you like saying exactly what was going through your head at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a powerful song, and I'm glad it exists, and
Me too.
I'm glad it's out at this point. You know, we've put a couple songs out, and it's like, actually, here, have this thing that's not like a sort of like a poem about life. It's actually like a literal excerpt from your time on this planet. So yeah,
Sick.
yeah, and that is What's It Like to Love Me.
Yes. Until next time.
Yeah, boom.
Love that.